Hey guys, Josh here again. Welcome back to the channel. Hey guys, we're in the garage again today, but we're going to be working outside today because I was on my way back from the Sons of Speed racing last weekend, and as I pulled in the driveway, I heard like a grinding noise or something in the rear, and sure enough, guys, popped the wheel off and looked, and the inside brake pads on the rear are gone. Right, they were ground right down to nothing, metal on metal, and making that grinding noise. So we have a big old box here that's on the hand truck because it weighs 1,000,000 pounds, and that has a whole Powerstop Z36 brake kit in it for the Jeep. So I went all the way, guys, on this. I did front and rear calipers, front and rear rotors, and pads from Powerstop. I went with the kit that's meant for towing and a little heavier braking because, you know, I get the bigger wheels on there, and the bigger tires on there and stuff, and I may go bigger after that, and I figured it can't hurt to stop better. So we're going to get over to the Jeep. We're going to start taking stuff apart. I'll show you the disaster that the current rotors and pads are in, and we'll get the new ones installed. So stand by. All right, guys, so I got the Jeep jacked up. I ripped the wheels off here, but I just want to show you guys. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it or not, but you can see down, hopefully you can see down in here that inside pad has basically got nothing left to it. And even the outer pad here, guys, right in here is worn down to just about nothing. And as you can see, guys, the rotors are pretty rusty and stuff too. Now, mind you, guys, these are Powerstop rotors too, slotted, drilled, and whatever. And these rotors have about 100,000 miles on them. So, and 2 sets of brake pads. So they've served their purpose. But you're going to see once I get them off, guys, I'll show you the inside of that where the metal was grinding against the rotor and put some good grooves in it. So, but I need to get the caliper off. I need to get the rotors off and everything like that, and then get the old pads out. And like I said, guys, the kit from Powerstop comes with the rotors, the pads, and I bought some calipers for this because I figured, guys, after 185,000 miles, might as well throw some new calipers too. So I'm going to get this stuff all tore apart, and we're going to put this on the bench, and we're going to show you the old versus the new, and then we'll get them installed on the Jeep here. Alright, guys, so in my application here, I have 2 bolts here, 2 18mm that hold the frame of the caliper on. I have 2 13s that hold the caliper on, and in my case, guys, since I am changing the calipers too, I need to disconnect the brake line, which is this 15mm that's right here. Again, if you were just changing your pads and your rotors, you would just take out these 2 bolts and these 2 bolts just to get the caliper and everything out, clean everything up, get your rotor off, and then you could go back to obviously reassembling stuff like that, and then you would just bring this back down. One other thing, guys, if you are going to have this just disconnected and you're not going to disconnect the hose because you're going to reuse that caliper, grab yourself a piece of copper wire or something else and just loop it through there so it holds the weight of it, and then you can hang it, you know, there's holes in the body or around the frame or something, just to keep the pressure off these hoses and these lines and stuff like that. You don't want it just hanging there and putting a lot of pressure on these lines and maybe causing you a problem with the lines later. So I'm going to get all that disassembly done, and then I'll show you where we're at from there. Alright, guys, just real quick, I got the caliper out, and I wanted to show you something here on the caliper and on the brake pad. So if you're looking at these 2 brake pads, you can see this one's shot, right? I mean, this is right down to the metal. This is what's causing my grinding noise. You guys will see in a minute the groove it cut in the rotor in the back here and stuff like that. So this is definitely the problem. But you notice how this one is got a lot of meat left on it. Still looks pretty good. I mean, it's not even through the wear bar yet and things like that. So what happens here, guys, is there are, right here, these pins are meant to slide in and out. You can see how this one's moving in and out pretty freely right now. But the bottom one, guys, is not moving at all. So what happens is these get rusted and they get seized in here, and it doesn't allow the caliper to move in and out freely, so it ends up wearing one of the brake pads faster than the other because it's basically constantly pressing on it with that pad but not really using the outer pad because it doesn't have the ability to slide in and out the way it's supposed to. So when these get seized up, guys, you have a couple of options, right? You can either replace the whole caliper like I am today, or you can actually work this, you know, get this free, grease it up, and make sure that it actually slides in and out. But again, guys, these calipers in this frame, this is original from the factory. So 185,000 miles later, we're going to just put new calipers on. But that's what will cause a situation like this where one pad will wear faster than the other because that caliper doesn't allow the caliper to float in and out when it's squeezing on the rotor. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys real quick. I'm going to get the rest of this taken apart, and I'm going to go get the new parts to put on. All right, guys, and here's the backside of that rotor now, and you can see how much it's just dug a groove and how rough this side of the rotor is right now. Now, guys, honestly, these rotors are pretty thick still, right? So in days past, you would have to take these to a machine shop, and then they would machine these down and put a new surface on them for you so you could reuse them. But again, guys, these have about 100,000 miles on them, I think, and 2 sets of pads, so I'm going to change them. I would have changed them anyways at this point. But again, you can see how that metal to metal just ground the rotor right now and basically just ruined it, guys. Like I said, if you're really hard up for money, sometimes you can find a shop that'll put these in a machine and turn these down, and they make them nice and smooth again, and then you can reuse them, because there is a lot of meat left in the rotor itself. But in my case, guys, we're just going to replace everything. All right, guys, so over at the bench here now, and I just laid out the parts here. Obviously, the red caliper and the silver rotor are the new ones compared to the old ones here. The calipers look to be, you know, they're powder coated red. They look to be very similar to stock. I understand that the internals are a little bit better than what comes on a stock one. And again, what's nice, guys, is Powerstop sells it as a package, guys. So they give you you can get the pads, the rotors, everything all in one package. It all fits your vehicle, and it's all ready to go. One point of note, though, some things that aren't included, things like the mounting bolts for the caliper frame, the banjo bolt that goes for the hose. Like, they did give me some new crush washers and stuff, which we'll use, but they didn't supply the actual bolt and stuff like that for that. So just little things, guys. When you're taking apart old junk and everything like that, and you think it's all garbage, best bet is hold on to your old parts just until you get through the complete project, because there are times when you might have to reuse a bolt or something like that. So I always keep all the extra pieces until the project is finished, so we don't run into any issues. So I'm going to go over to the Jeep. We're going to get these parts mounted up, and then I'll give you a view of it, what it looks like when they're all mounted up. But guys, this is a brake job, right? It's pretty straightforward. Every vehicle I've ever done them on, it really comes down to take it apart and then just reverse it to put it back together. And then in my case, guys, we're going to have to bleed this this new caliper out, because we're going to, obviously we introduced air into the system, and there's no fluid in the caliper at the moment. So yeah, so I'll get back over to the Jeep, get all these parts put on, and then I'll show you where we're at for that. All right, guys, so the rear passenger side is done. Got the new caliper on there. It looks really good. Like I said, they're nice. They're powder coated red, so they're going to stand up and, wear better. Got the new rotor on, and guys, when I bleed, I use the bottle method here. So this is a one-man brake bleeder kit you can make in a few minutes. You just need a piece of hose, drill a hole in this cap. You can use a couple zip ties to keep the hose in place so it stays in the bottom of the fluid. And then all you do, guys, is you take this, keep it vertical, right? Connect the other end to your bleeder valve, crack your bleeder valve open about 1/4 of a turn, go into your car and pump the brakes till they're firm, right? So in my case, it only took me 2 or 3 pumps to get all the air bubbles out. And then what you're looking for in this hose, you'll see this hose full of fluid, and then what happens is, because the other end is submerged in fluid, it allows the air to go out but does not suck air back in. So that allows you to bleed your brakes that way by yourself without having to, have somebody sit at this end and watch what comes out and then clock it, and you pump the brakes and you hold it, then you come here and you loosen it, and it's a way you can do it as one man. And guys, I've been doing it this way for a long time. You can try the vacuum bleeder kits too. I've used those in the past. Those work well too, where they just draw the fluid through. But this method seems to work well for me, guys, and it's just the way I bleed brakes. And in my case, I'm doing my brakes in the order that I would need to bleed them, which is, in my vehicle, is rear passenger first, then rear driver, then front passenger, front driver, and that just happens to be how I'm going through to replace everything here. So if I remember, guys, on the next one, I'll show you the bottle in place. I'll go in and I'll pump it, and you'll see the fluid come through here. And basically, guys, in this hose, we're looking for no air bubbles. When we got no air bubbles in here coming out directly from the bleeder valve, we know we got no air left in our system, and we're in good shape. All right, team, I had moved over to the driver's side to start working on that. Same kind of thing. I know that the pad is just about shot on this side. It's time to change them all anyways. But then I noticed this. If you guys can see, look at this brake line. There are rub marks in it because somehow, either when I put it back the last time or something, I put a twist in the hose here. So it's been rubbing against the hard portion of that line for, I don't know, a couple of years now, and it's we can see the threads for that line. So yeah, I ran to the parts store and picked up a new one. So on this side, we're going to change from this point here where the steel line ends all the way down to the caliper and get that changed out. So just another point of reference, guys, when you're in here, make sure you check your hoses too, see if they're dry, cracked, make sure that they're not in this position where they were rubbing, and you know, if that burst on the road, you'd have no rear brakes. Back to it in a minute. And guys, here are the pads on the rear driver's side, and as you can see, guys, there's a lot of meat still left on these pads in here. So in reality, I could have just done pads and rotors. You always, guys, when you're doing brakes, if you're going to do the rear on one side, you do both sides to keep them even. But as you can see there, if my caliper didn't seize up on the other side where it wouldn't move in and out and free float, then I probably wouldn't have had any issues at all for another couple thousand miles at least, because I'm not even to the wear bars on these yet. So I probably had another 10-15,000 miles at least before I would have had to change anything here. But since I did the one side and had to repair the rotor and everything, might as well just do it all. So I have a feeling that the front looks pretty good too, and that I'll be changing those a little prematurely. But again, I'm the type that if I'm going to fix it, I might as well fix it right the first time. So I'm going to get this side all cleaned up, get it back together, and then we'll move to the front. Alright guys, so on the frame for the caliper, there's these little metal clips, and these are like bushings that the brake pads ride in. And basically what happens is there's like a little spring hook on this side, and it's a flat piece. Here, I can show you on this one here, guys. It's flat on this side, and there's a little spring, like kind of retainer hook on this side. And what that does is that's what holds this in place for it to ride on. I've struggled for years, guys, with easy ways to try to put these on and try to fight with them and everything else. And what I found, guys, is the easiest way to do it is you take the clip, you put it in the position like it's supposed to be, like this, with the flat side first, right? So you start with, sorry about dropping it, but you start with the flat side in place, right? So I put the flat side in place, and I get it seated all the way down like it's supposed to be. Then you turn it over, and I'll get my hands out of the way in a minute, guys, so you can see this, but you basically turn it over so you can see where that little hook is. And now what you do is you just open it up, get your screwdriver behind that hook, and pry it open and push at the same time. And it slides that clip right in place, and with no effort and no really hard time at all of trying to push the other way and get the flat side to lock in. The corners of these are pretty sharp, guys. They're like sheet metal. So I found that just putting that screwdriver under that side there, just prying back on it and pull towards you while you're pushing it down, makes them go on really easy, guys. So just a little tip, if you guys are doing brakes like these that have these little metal clips, that makes my life a ton easier getting those put on. And honestly, you got to take the caliper off anyways when you change the pads. It's only 2 more bolts, guys, to pop this off to put those clips on before you put this all back in place. Alright guys, so I'm just bringing the other side here, the passenger side, and I wanted to show you guys the bottom now, the way it's working. So as you can see here, the end of that hose is buried in that fluid, and then what that helps do is it helps stop bubbles going back into the system. And then as you can see in the lower half of that hose, it's all nice clean fluid, which means now we know that there's no air in the system in there. Now what I did, guys, was all I did was hook this hose up, crack that bleeder open 1/4 of a turn, and then got in the car and pumped the brakes 3 or 4 times just to push fluid out of here down the line and into the caliper and stuff. So that's all I did. And now I come back out, and I got to find my 10mm here, which is somewhere around here. Well, I need to find it in a second, because then all I'm going to do is I'm going to shut that bleeder valve now. But you can leave it like this for, you got time now to actually run back over and look at it, because this valve now, it's because there's all good fluid down here, no air bubbles are going back up into the system. So I'm just going to grab my 10mm, I'm going to close that bleeder valve, shut the thing, and then we're going to move on to the front. Alright guys, so here's the front passenger side, and as you can see, again, these rotors are old. They got about 100,000 miles on them. Like I said, they're not beat too bad. Like, I could still use these. Like, I could just change the pads and use them. And guys, I'm really not having a problem in the front yet, so I could run these, but I figured since I was doing all new calipers and everything in the rear, I might as well do the front too. And again, guys, you can see the pads are, you know, there's still enough meat on those pads. Like, they're not worn down. And like I said, I could probably get some more mileage out of these. But while I'm at it fixing the rear, I figure I might as well fix the front too. So I'm gonna get these off and swap it out. The only difference here, guys, between what's in the back and what's in the front is on these guys, the bolt that holds the frame for the caliper, that is a 21. but these are still 13 and 15, and it's a 15 on the banjo bolt to take the hose off for the calipers. All right, guys, so here's the front passenger side all wrapped up. I did the driver's side too. I just didn't record any of it because it's the same process, guys. It's those 4 bolts, the 1 banjo bolt, and then just swap it out. But front and back are basically the identical process. So I'm throwing the wheels back on at this time, and then I'm going to go for a quick ride to see how it feels, and then we'll wrap this video up. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap the video up for the brakes on my 2012 Wrangler. Guys, process is simple. Like I said, it's the 5 bolts, the 2 for the carrier, the 2 for the caliper, and then the 1 for the banjo bolt if you're going to change the calipers too. You could also do exactly what I just did, not change the calipers, just change your rotors and pads if that's what you need to replace on your Jeep. I went for a nice test drive, was able to get it to stop real nice, and you know, the brakes takes a minute to bed in. You know, so usually I'll get up to like 30-40 miles an hour and hit them a little hard and try to get them to bed in a little bit, but the Jeep is stopping really great right now, and we're in good shape. So a couple hours worth of work, but you know, you save a lot of money instead of going to the shop with that. Plus, if you're like me and you like to tinker, it's a fun project to do. So until the next one, guys, you stay safe.